How's it going, everybody? RazingHel here, and today I'm going to be going over the most recent run that I had for the Womant, killing the Womant in Don't Starve Hamlet. So Don't Starve Hamlet, for those unfamiliar, is the new DLC that's currently available on Steam for Don't Starve single player. It's not part of Don't Starve Together, so you're going to need to have the single player base game in order to get the DLC. But the DLC is currently available and in early access, as you can see at the top of the screen. It says Hamlet Early Access. So just be aware that things are subject to change, and they have changed throughout the development, obviously. So what is the point of this? Well, I am playing as Wickerbottom here, and I'm going to kill the Womant, which is sort of a boss here in Hamlet, in 2 days. In under 3 days, I should say, is probably a better, more accurate term. Killing the Womant in under 3 days. Why is this valuable? Well, you get a good deal of minerals from her. But most importantly, it's to get the royal crown. I think it's called the royal crown. It's the one you can give to the queen in the second pig village. And also because of the prestige of killing the Womant this early into the game. There's not a massive incentive to do it, and you can most certainly get through the game without killing the Womant. But I think it's a really fun little challenge to do. And I think I did fairly well here with Wickerbottom. A reason that I chose Wickerbottom, obviously, is because she starts with Tier 1 Science already available to her. So to get access to Tier 2 Science, which is required for things like a football helmet, for example, or a ham bat, you only have to craft the research station, the research one. What is it called? I don't know. Don't know the name of the science machine. There it is. Science machine. Yeah. You don't have to craft the alchemy engine to be able to build a ham bat as Wickerbottom. You don't have to craft an alchemy engine to build a football helmet as Wickerbottom. And that's important to me because it allows me to really accelerate the rate at which I can speed through these objectives. And the reason that I want to use a ham bat and a football helmet over, for example, maybe a halberd from one of the guard pigs, because you could kill a guard pig and get a halberd, but I prefer the ham bat because it deals significantly more damage. I think it's really valuable for somebody like Wickerbottom who does not have a default damage modifier. So, you know, by default, you're going to be fighting at the default level, unlike Wolfgang, for example, who could probably get away with not using a ham bat. However, there's another little problem here for Wickerbottom. Since she's not dealing as much damage as, let's say, Wolfgang, you're probably going to need to, double up your armor. In single player, you can double up your armor, and this works to your advantage because when you're wearing 2 pieces of armor, the effects of it are cumulative. I'm not sure if that's the exact way to phrase it, but unlike in single player, where if you're wearing 2 pieces of 80% defensive armor, in multiplayer, you would not get anything more from it. You would not receive any more of a damage modifier than 80%. It's stuck at 80%. It's a confusing way to put it, I know. I can't think of a better way to phrase this. But in single player, if you wear, let's say, a log suit that's 80% defense, and then a football helmet that's 80% defense, they stack. So the first 100 damage that you would take, the log suit would mitigate that, let's say, by 80%, which would reduce it to 20 damage. And then the football helmet would take the next 20 damage from that, which would reduce it even further to like 4 damage or something. So you can see you take significantly less damage by wearing 2 pieces of armor in single player. I'm not sure if they're going to change this because Clay says, quality of life improvements are being sort of ported over from Don't Starve Together. And I'm not sure if the armor is going to be one thing that they change in the future here because, for example, you used to not be able to pick up things off the ground while holding something with your cursor as your character here in single player. But since the most recent update in early January 2019 here for Don't Starve single player, you can now do that. That was a feature that was previously only available in Don't Starve Together. It was a feature that I, of course, appreciated greatly, but the point being is that things are subject to change here, and the beauty of the double stacked armor from single player versus multiplayer, it might not be something that continues to be a feature of the game, which would be really sad, and it would change the entire dynamic of this run here because I use the football helmets plus the log suit to really minimize the amount of damage that Wickerbottom is taking during the fight. So those are like a few caveat emptors to get out of the way. I should point out here that I only need 1 gold to get started, because just the 1 science machine is enough. So if you find 1 cave cleft, you can mine. I don't think there's ever not been at least 1 stalagmite down here that you can mine for gold. And then there's also a flint down in most of them, as well as Freya pointed out to me. I hadn't really noticed that previous to her mentioning it. So credit where credit is due. Try to do that in the future. So got the gold. So at this point, another little thing. I'm not sure who suggested this to me, but it was a real lifesaver. Somebody on stream while I was streaming this. This is a streamed capture, by the way, but I captured it in full quality. I recorded it locally instead of having to rip it from the stream, right? But the point that I was going to make is that someone suggested to me to use the shears to cut grass. And it's a really big deal, because up until that point I was struggling to get grass. You know, by default, the machete only cuts down tall grass. You can't pick the tall grass right here. But the shears, not only do they reduce the time it takes to harvest that grass, you know, because you can immediately cut it, just 1 snip and it's done. But it also yields 2 grass tufts or pieces of grass from the snipping there. So that's pretty decent, and it's what I've been using to gather a decent amount of grass in the earlier parts of the game. You know, before you get a farm up and going, or you find a pig farm to steal from, right? Before you have access to that amount of grass, when you're gathering grass out here sort of in the wilds, it really comes in handy to use the shears. It's one of the things that they're best at, in addition to being able to trim hedges, of course. But I try to prioritize that now when it comes to gathering grass. It's my go-to method of gathering grass. Speaking though of, you know, streaming and ripping stuff from my stream, in the past I've done that because I didn't record full-time in the background, but now I'm trying to change that. My plan going forward is that I will record every stream in its entirety to my local hard drive. So while I'm streaming, I'm also going to be recording it. And that means that I can get it in much higher quality when I want to pull certain things from that stream, right? I can go back and review it after the fact, you know, cut out the chunks that I'm interested in, and they'll be in high quality, and then I can just delete the whole file, because the whole file ends up being about 25 gigabytes per stream, because I record at 1440p, which is the native resolution of my monitor. 1440p, 60 frames a second, for those who are a little bit more technical out there. And then also it explains why you see the current now playing song in the upper left corner of the screen. It's because that is a layer that was recorded as part of the stream. I'm not sure. I might be able to change that in the future. I might be able to choose what parts the local encoder records, but yeah. At the moment, you're going to see the soundtrack in the upper left corner, and it might not always match what's actually playing in the background of this video. I can do a lot with it since it's now local. I have the different audio tracks completely split up and on not different layers, they're different tracks in the video. So, and this is techie again for making videos and stuff, but there is a separate track for game audio, separate track for the sound, the music that I'm playing in the background, and then a third track for the commentary, for like me speaking over it. So I can remove my commentary from it, I can remove the music track from it, and just have the clean game sound track if I want to, if that's needed. So it really helps for mixing and balancing sounds and stuff. And I would highly recommend that if you're somebody who's using OBS to record or capture, look into being able to separate your audio tracks so they're not all mixed into one file, because it makes it, you can really do a lot more clean things with it. All right, so not a whole lot has been going on here. I gathered a little bit of grass, some stones, some rocks, I should say. I always call rocks stones when I shouldn't. I have the wooden armor here, which is important because I want to take as little damage as possible. I'm not going to be gathering or making any sort of food that can heal me. We're just going in there with the health that we have. So I want to minimize the amount of damage that I take up until that point. So here, fighting the hippopotamus, the strategy that I'm using is that I go in for 2 hits and then walk away and sort of bait out that jump attack. Now, this can get a little bit dicier if there are other hippopotamuses nearby. I try to target only one at a time, or like one that's kind of by itself. As you can see, there was another one coming over. If you get like 2 on you, it's possible to pull it off. But if you get 3 or more that are all chasing you, you're probably going to take lots of damage just because it's difficult to get them to sort of sync their attacks or to predict when one is going to attack, or they could just be completely staggered, the attacks, not giving you an opportunity to get in there and attack back at all without getting stomped. So if that's the case, just walk away from the hippopotamuses. It's really simple because their aggro timer seems to be significantly lower than a lot of other mobs in Don't Starve. So it's really easy to lose their aggro. I would just recommend doing that if more than 2 are aggroed onto you. Even sometimes 2 is a little bit much. Depends upon how comfortable you are with that. And once again, don't get greedy with trying to attack them. If you're good enough to get in like 3 hits at a time, in between dodging, in between kiting, you can try that then. But at least in the beginning, it's better safe than sorry. A lot of times, you end up spending more time fixing mistakes when you're greedy and stuff than it would if you just played it a little bit more carefully. And since time is kind of limited, I would rather have a good run rather than a great run that took me 5 times as long or something to actually pull it off. That's my philosophy on it. Anyway, so I saved the hippopotamus antler. You might see it in my inventory, and there's a good reason for this, is because after I kill the Womant, the plan is to summon the big friendly bird, or the BFB, I think it's called. Depends upon what Clay wants to do with that name in the future, but at the moment it's just kind of called the BFB, I think. Yeah, it's not exactly, I don't know, it's not the most salient name, I think, but hey, it works. The reason, though, that you want to summon the BFB is to get to the other island where the scepter is, so that way you have Crown and the scepter to trade in after you're done with this. So, like by day 5 or so, you should be able to make it to the second pig village and trade in the crown and the scepter for the keys. The executive hammer and the key to the city, which allows you to do a lot of stuff in terms of restructuring how the pig villages are built and whatnot. And you can get that by day 5, so it's significantly before the human season starts. So pretty cool stuff. That's what I was sort of going for here. I needed the hippopotamus, by the way, for the hambat. It requires meat, so yeah, there you go. One interesting thing about this run here is that since I found the pig heads right away, I didn't really have to spend much time looking for them, and at the same time, that means I didn't manage to gather as much. So I'm just lightening the load here a little bit of my inventory. You don't really need much food as Wickerbottom, though. So one thing I should probably point out here is that the ant hill that I usually use to enter into the underground mat lair, whatever labyrinth that is, it's the one that's near to the pig heads. And you're going to find these pig heads on sticks near to a pond. So the lily pond is sort of that watery biome that you can build a boat and can sail around in it with it. And you'll find that close to your starting area. So starting area, there's pond. And after pond, you should be able to find a mant hill with the pig heads around it. I was really lucky here in getting inside this mant hill, in that the second cell that I entered was the entrance to the Queen Womant. So there you go. That, you know, it comes down to world generation and stuff. Sometimes you just get lucky. Another strategy that I'm using here is I'm sticking to the outer walls of each cell here in this labyrinth as much as possible to avoid attracting the attention of the warrior mants right there, because they will not lose aggro on you necessarily. So if they follow you to an exit, it means that when you come back through there again, they're immediately going to be aggroed onto you and trying to attack you, and they probably will get some hits off. So if you avoid attracting your attention or you kill them off, like, that's the best strategy there. I try to avoid attracting your attention for this because I'm in a hurry, and I therefore stuck to the edges of the cell. Here, we're in the throne room, let's say, whatever you want to call this. I'm going to be making an additional log suit, a football helmet, 3 football helmets, I think, and a hambat. The hambat's fresh, so you can easily craft it down here. And that's the primary reason for doing that, is that it's at its maximum damage right here. And then I have the science machine on me and stuff. For this fight itself, as Wickerbottom, I've heard some people say that you could put up walls or whatnot to sort of defend yourself from some of these enemies being able to attack you before you begin the attack. I've not tried that myself, but it could be viable. From what I've seen though, what she usually spawns, and what usually spawns based on the earthquakes that she causes, can be dealt with if you have 2 pieces of armor as Wickerbottom. The compounding effects of the armor defend you from most of these attacks, and the enemies don't tend to build up unless you leave them alone for too long. As you can see right there, I'm not attacking that warrior mant, and I probably should, because it's just going to keep wailing away on me. There is also the potential to get poisoned here by the scorpions. This is a bit, it comes down to luck again. I'm not sure what the rate is, the percentage is that can cause the scorpions to poison you, but I would say like 50-50-ish for me. Like half the time I end up getting poisoned. And the good news is that usually a poison gland spawns during this fight that you can pick up and eat to cure the poison, but I wouldn't eat it until after the... Oh, and here by the way, I'm saving and quitting because there's a bug in the game apparently that destroys the noise. It mutes the sound after a certain part of the fight. I'm not exactly sure why it happens, but you have to relog to sort of fix it. Yeah, but in terms of poison glands, it's a bit of a problem. But I wouldn't eat the poison gland while you're down here. Wait until you get out, because you could potentially be taking some damage from the warriors that are guarding the exit to this throne room if you haven't already killed them, or if you've aggroed them in any way, you could probably take some more damage, which means don't let your health become too low while exiting this room here. I made a mistake. I did not bring enough flint into this, so I can't mine down the Womant throne, I guess it is, which is a shame. This is like the first time this ever happened to me. Usually enough flint simply drops from the earthquakes during this fight that it's not a problem, but going into the future, I'm going to make sure that I either bring enough flint with me to build a pickaxe, or to bring an actual pickaxe. Yeah, because that was a bit of a mistake. I have to go and get the flint and then come back, which increases the time it takes. But as you can see there, I managed to defeat the Womant in under 3 days. It's the best way to put it. She's dead in under 3 days. Exiting here is a little bit interesting. In these areas, you can get through them without a torch because it's illuminated. When you first, after the fight, this area is illuminated. When you first come in here, it's not, so you're going to need a torch, but after that, it is illuminated for some reason. I'm not sure why. Yeah, you don't necessarily need a torch to get out, I guess is the point. And there it is. So that is me defeating the Womant in under 3 days as Wickerbottom. If you're interested in checking out my progress in real time, be sure to check out my streams on Twitch. That is twitch.tv/RazingHel. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching as always, and I hope to see you next time.